Looking for a place to put your sports knowledge to use? FleetWit.com is the first trivia site where it pays to know sports. Go one-on-one in exciting sports trivia battles against players across the country, and all for cash prizes with thousands in prizes won every day. You might even be matchups to play NFL players like Richard Sherman. Watch out, he knows his Greek mythology. And the Fantasy Footballers listeners get an exclusive deal. Enter Footballers at checkout for 5 free credits. Join now at FleetWit.com or download the app from the App Store today. Code is Footballers.
Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast, coming to you from the Play Draft Studios with your hosts, Andy Holloway, Jason Moore, and Mike Wright.
Hey! Welcome in.
Hey!
I just
hip hop hooray!
I just threw a piece of paper across the studio and knocked over Brooks's Paul McCartney guitar.
My model, baby.
Take that.
Just a model.
It's very small.
It's okay.
It's not a big guitar.
I just got a big old bass guitar.
It's like
showing
2
over
inches.
Here.
It's a full-size replica bass guitar.
I threw that paper really hard. Welcome to the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Andy, Mike, Jason, and Judge Giamatti in the house. We are back with a Tuesday episode of the show, November 7th. Waivers on the show today, QB streamers. Very excited to be here with you. We're going to start off the show, talk a little bit about Monday Night Football. Now, Brooks and I, we're dedicated to our craft, and we watched this game last night. I've been telling you that I think Ameer Abdullah is very easy to tackle.
Sure.
Just simple, very, very easy to tackle. He put up a touchdown last night, which makes fantasy owners happy. But he's kind of the cleanest shirt on the dirty laundry pile to me. That's what Ameer Abdullah is.
Yeah, sure.
So Brooks and I came into the studio yesterday, and we worked on a computer algorithm, a very big system, trying to figure out who exactly can tackle Ameer Abdullah. Do you guys want to test it out?
Sure.
Yeah.
You want to
excited.
just give me a name, and I'll tell you whether or not we can put it in the
you put
system.
it in the computer?
We put it in the computer, and then we just see if they could tackle Ameer Abdullah.
Okay.
I'm curious. Look, it's a little bit past his prime, but Mike Ditka.
Mike Ditka.
Okay.
Let me put it in here.
Yeah.
Let's see. Mike Ditka. Yes, Mike Ditka
Ooh.
could tackle Ameer Abdullah.
He's older.
Yep.
That surprises me a
Current
little bit.
Mike Ditka. Yeah. Do you guys
Okay.
want to try? Here's one I tried. Current NFL broadcaster Tony Romo. Tony Romo.
Oh,
could
he's got a bad back.
Could he tackle? Yes, he
Oh,
could.
the back is all right.
My
He could
goodness.
tackle Ameer Abdullah.
My
You want to try anything else?
I've got one.
Okay.
Actor Mark Paul Gosselaar,
Okay.
known for his, of course, Zach Morris fame.
Yeah. Well, it took me a second to type him in. Let me go ahead and see.
It's a long name.
Yeah. Yes.
Oh, wow.
Hold
I
on.
tried this one. Former U.S. figure skater Kristi Yamaguchi.
No way.
No.
Yes.
Whoa.
All
Yes.
right. Okay.
All right.
Well, we got to make sure that this thing's not broken.
Okay.
I don't know what you need to type in exactly. I'm not super computer savvy with
Sure.
this. That crumpled piece of paper that knocked over Brooks's
Okay.
giant bass
It did.
guitar.
No, I took out a guitar.
Yeah, we could probably put that in there. Let's see. Yes.
All right.
Yes. Tripped him. He couldn't. No arm tackle from the piece of paper. Last one I tried was former President Jimmy Carter. Jimmy Carter. Yes. Yes.
All right.
Anybody and everybody can tackle Ameer Abdullah with just a soft breeze. So yes, look, it's over. It's
You
over.
love the Express?
Yeah, the Express never got out of the station. Here's the
It's a
deal
little
with
rickety.
Ameer Abdullah. Yes, he scored, and I would try to trade him. Last night in the Listener League, Jason and I were facing head-to-head, and he reminded me that I actually had a chance to beat him if Ameer Abdullah had a big game. And then, I had to realize he's never going to have a big game. It's never going to happen. He fumbled 2 times last night.
To be fair, I mean, he was that one fumble away from a very big game because he would have gotten another touchdown.
That was on the goal line, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So, anyways, thoughts from last night's game, gentlemen, that aren't related to the computer program.
It was not a fun game to watch. I'll say that. Brett Hundley is
He
horrific.
is bad at football.
Mike McCarthy came out and said he is not the problem.
Come on.
He said that it's not just a press release comment, that Brett Hundley's played a lot better. He's not the problem.
Yeah.
Well, then I guess it's Mike McCarthy. Genuinely, if the head coach cannot realize the problem, then he is the problem.
Jordy Nelson, Devontae Adams, Aaron Jones, Ty Montgomery. What do you throw your hands up as a fantasy owner with those players rest of the season?
Yeah, you certainly do. I mean, you have you had 10 targets for Devontae Adams, 7 receptions. That sounds great. That's a really good start. In a PPR league, you were fine with him, but only 58 yards. You had 5 receptions 53 yards, 58 yards for Randall Cobb, and almost all of that came on 1 reception where he just broke free. There's no value to these wide receivers. You know, Jordy Nelson owners, 4 for 35. You would have been better off starting a Rashard Matthews than any of these great players, because the not problem, Brett Hundley, is he's not able to get the ball to them.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm actually shocked looking at this 245 yards for Brett Hundley. I mean, he padded the stats there at the end of the game, because I can't remember exactly, but there was a moment where I looked. It was like he had 7 completions for 20-something yards. And it's like, how is that even possible?
Fantasy owners are freaking out about Aaron Jones. Last night was a bit of a disaster for Aaron Jones.
The thing is, the silver lining of hope is they wanted to feature Aaron Jones. You saw it right at the beginning of the game. He was the starter. He was getting touches on that first drive where they actually were having some success moving the ball. But the word is on the whiffed pass protection, which was pointed out on the broadcast, that kind of got him sat down and brought in. Ty Montgomery ended up out-snapping him. So I still think that Aaron Jones is the primary first and second down runner. Maybe he can't get as much third down work if the pass protection doesn't improve, which is pretty funny considering last year Ty Montgomery was a massive liability in pass protection.
But he has improved, and that's why he was able to get on the field so much. I look at, I've been telling people, hold Ty Montgomery because he could still be the starter. Yeah. And this, to me, looks like a situation where you're not going to get much out of either of them. If we want to talk about something positive, let's talk about Marvin Jones.
Wow, man.
The number 9 fantasy football wide receiver.
This is the 3rd week in a row where he has had a fantastic fantasy game. Now, we saw him get hot in the beginning of last year and then completely disappear. So this is not saying that he will, stay this hot the rest of the season.
Jacuzzi, where you're and then you jump right in the pool.
But that was winter jacuzzi.
Yeah, and so your entire
go
body is
right
full
into
of needles.
That freezing pool. But yeah, I mean, look, Marvin Jones is a guy that should, he probably is rostered everywhere.
Of course, he's rostered,
but he should be started everywhere from here on out. You stay in the flames. You've got 3 monster weeks in a row.
You have 4 weeks with 6 or more receptions too. So, Marvin Jones, you'd rather have him rest the season than T.Y. Hilton?
Probably.
Yeah, I think
probably.
so.
I mean, competent quarterback play.
I mean, your down games, like
goes
you said,
a long way.
Yeah, it does.
4 weeks ago, he didn't get a touchdown, didn't have a huge amount of yards, but he was still 6 for 54. When T.Y. Hilton has his bad Jacoby Brissett games now, they're 1 for 2.
Right.
All right. Well, if you are a brand new listener, welcome aboard the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. We're here every day during the entire season, and we're here during the off season too.
Those are the best shows.
Jason loves them because they have a tendency to, get outside the box a little bit.
Yeah.
And you don't like that
crazy
box.
No,
the box
can't contain me.
Yeah.
If you're brand new, you can find us on Twitter at the FF Ballers. We're on YouTube.
Like a giraffe. You ever tried to put a giraffe in a box?
No, and nobody's ever tried to in the history of Earth.
Yeah, because
nobody's ever tried to put a giraffe in a box
because they're not deep enough.
They're not big enough boxes.
No, the neck is so big you can't shut them in.
Do we put animals in boxes?
Jason has a big neck.
Okay, this is just Mike. Cut his mic. Cut Mike's mic. All right, we're on iTunes. You can subscribe, leave us a review.
Jason is long necking. In fact,
I'm moving on.
News and notes from around the league.
Looking like a brontosaurus over here.
I feel like we're going to have further debate in just a moment.
About
Not
drafts?
giraffe related. But maybe, Mike Evans, suspended for one game. He's appealing. No other players were suspended, including A.J. Green.
I'll say his appeal needs to point out A.J. Green did not get suspended.
Yeah, that's an easy win.
See, I'm the only one clearly in this office that didn't. Like I said, I don't think he's getting suspended yesterday.
You did. So that's fair.
And I think it's for a couple of reasons. One, he was ejected.
That's exactly why I think.
And I think the second reason is it was provoked. Like, I know that what he did was over the top and insane, right? Some kung fu fighting. But it was provoked, and it was a cheap little shot from Jalen Ramsey right there, and those had probably been happening all game long. And I just think that the ejection kind of took care of the punishment. And he was very, straightforward and remorseful. Now, Mike Evans was too. But Mike Evans wasn't ejected. Mike Evans also blindsided somebody that didn't see it coming. It's very possible the suspension gets overturned, but I think now you're without it.
It's all related to me to the ejection. Is for Mike Evans, I mean, he probably at this point wishes he got kicked out of that game because it was over, and now the team actually needs him this upcoming week with Ryan Fitzpatrick.
Yeah, Jameis Winston shut down for at least the next 2 weeks if you haven't heard.
And it's at least. This is not a good situation for a losing team if you're counting on Jameis Winston. But I think Mike Evans will have to sit for a week.
Predictability for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers has gone out the window at this point.
Good luck.
And if you continue to have a season that is in the dumps, you're going to see experiments with players at the running back position. That hurts Doug Martin. You're going to see maybe Chris Godwin hit the field a little bit more. But you got to pay attention there. Deshaun Jackson, they play the Jets this week. He's a start if Mike Evans is off the field. The targets have been there. Maybe he finds something with Fitzpatrick who's willing to just chuck it,
right?
Whereas Winston and him didn't have a report. Ian Rappaport reports that Teddy Bridgewater
love it
is expected to be activated by Wednesday. Might not start week 10, but I love the fact that he is back. He's a great guy.
Good old Teddy Two Gloves.
I think we all had it in the back of our minds that we may never see him play football again when that injury happens. So it's great to see. You never know how much work goes into these recoveries. You just hear, a guy's back, and you don't think of the fact he's –
For me, it was really easy.
Exactly.
Because I didn't have to do anything while he recovered.
No, you just waited.
The question is, is there any chance that Teddy is promoted to be the starter without something happening to Keenum? Because they're winning right now.
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, if Keenum – I don't think Keenum needs to get injured for Teddy to take over. If Keenum continues to play at he's been okay. He's been okay.
They're winning.
They're winning not because of Case Keenum, though. They're winning because of their defense. They drafted Teddy Bridgewater to be their future. And if Bridgewater is playing in practice the way that he was prior to the injury, they were a Super Bowl contending team, if you can remember back to when he had that injury happen in practice. I think as a franchise, they would want to get him involved earlier rather than later, rather than waiting until the season is falling apart because of 3 bad games in a row from Case Keenum. So I do see a situation where, 2 or 3 weeks from now, if what Bridgewater's doing in practice is good enough, they say, look, he's our future. That's a starter. Do you guys both disagree completely?
It's hard to know because I don't know where Teddy Bridgewater's at. And Case Keenum has been competent, and that's the best word for it. And predictability for Diggs and Thielen is easier for me with Keenum behind center than it is with Bridgewater. But, we saw a winning franchise, the 49ers. They switched over from Smith to Kaepernick midseason.
But that was injury-related.
I guess his first start was injury-related, but he never came back. So we'll monitor the situation. We are going to get into the waivers here momentarily. A little bit more news. Ezekiel Elliott has a hearing with the Second Circuit Court of Appeals on Thursday. Now, I'd love to tell you that this is the end of the story.
It's not. This is the
there's
beginning.
no such thing in a world of infinite appeals, apparently.
This is a sphere. You just keep walking, and you will never hit that end.
It could very well be the last hurrah for the legal process in 2017.
But here's the deal for me.
What were you saying,
Go,
Brooks?
Oh, I read because of this hearing is on Thursday, so late in the week, he should be good for this week. The decision shouldn't come.
That's what I was going to say.
Quick enough.
I'm almost positive that Ezekiel Elliott will be playing this weekend at the very least. So if you got Zeke, you got at least one more week.
Which means at this point, if he is suspended, he misses fantasy playoffs.
Yeah.
He's
Cool.
working that out for you.
Yeah.
Dez Bryant, knee injury in addition to the ankle ailment day to day.
This is not good.
Yeah, with the double up and some of the things that other doctors have been saying, I expect him to be gone.
How much does Zeke and Dez affect your Dak Prescott confidence if they were both to miss and that offense
that
slows
will
down?
be very interesting. I mean, like we said, Zeke is going to play this weekend, but let's say next weekend the suspension kicks in and Dez Bryant does have a high ankle sprain.
It doesn't affect my Dak ranking very much.
Yeah, because I think he's very good.
Jason Witten climbs up your ranks.
Yeah, I mean, you've got enough weapons there. Bryce Butler is good if he gets more work. Terrence Williams, if he's back and healthy. Cole Beasley, Jason Witten. You've got good, solid running backs behind that offensive line. I don't worry about Dak in the situation that the other two stars are gone.
It'll be interesting later in the year. You wonder the relevance of guys like Corey Coleman and Josh Gordon, whereas you have Ricardo Lewis and who's their other
Higgins,
running routes for Cleveland. Corey Coleman's eligible to return in Week 11 against the Jags. Not excited about that, but just something to be aware of. Julio Jones, lower leg injury, going to miss some practice. George Kittle, the 49ers tight end, already ruled out in Week 10. And Devonta Freeman, last one here, suffered an undisclosed injury on Sunday. Do we know anything else about this situation? And do you need to? You need to be glued to the news.
You're allowed to do that? I feel like NFL teams have to report what the injury is.
This is Kelsey Conway of the Falcons' official site reporting that. So maybe the team still needs to disclose it, but she just knows he suffered an injury.
Okay, fair enough.
Anything else, guys?
No, I think that's all the news.
All right, before we jump into the waivers, I do want to take a second to thank today's sponsor, MeUndies.com. Now, you want to look good in your underwear, which,
we all do.
We all want that. And then you want to be comfortable in your underwear.
We all want that.
We all want that. But that perfect balance, comfort, and, looking amazing. That's hard to find, but not with MeUndies. MeUndies is great. We've had them as a sponsor for a couple of years. We've all enjoyed our MeUndies, and they are made from a sustainably sourced, naturally soft fabric 3 times softer than cotton. MeUndies is the most comfortable pair of underwear you will ever own. And think about it. You spend all the time in your underwear. So look, for the fellas, MeUndies Diamond Seam Pouch cradles your jewels and gives you the stuff, gives your stuff the support it needs without feeling too tight.
Give your stuff the stuff.
Give your stuff the stuff. 100% satisfaction guaranteed. Look, it's a no-brainer. Just go to MeUndies.com/footballers to get 20% off, free shipping, and 100% satisfaction guaranteed. So, by the way, if you don't like your first pair, they just give you a refund. So, if I'm lying to you, which I'm not, they'll just give you your money back. Softest underwear you'll ever own. MeUndies.com/footballers. Limited time offer. So, what are you waiting for? Start wearing the best underwear of your life. It's changed our lives. It's time to let MeUndies change your life. Go to MeUndies.com/footballers. Right now.
Hey, Foot Clan, the holidays are here. Last year at the holidays, we had Omaha Steaks throwing out this ridiculous package that you could get for everyone wanted it.
Yeah.
And it went away. It was like the McRib. Guess what's back? Guess what's back? Omaha Steaks rocking this
far better meat quality than the McRib.
Infinitely better. I mean, you're talking the highest quality meats here. You're 75% off is the deal right now.
Oh, so they're doing it again.
That's what I'm saying. They're doing it again. So, Omaha Steaks for only $49.99. You can get the family gift pack. That's what it's called. When you go to omahasteaks.com, enter the code FANTASY in the search bar. It's not a coupon. Go to in the search bar, hit FANTASY in there. Right now, Omaha Steaks giving an exclusive savings just to the Foot Clan. Listen to everything you get. Less than $50. 2 filet mignons, 2 top sirloins, 2 boneless pork chops, 4 boneless chicken breasts, 4 kielbasa sausages, 4 burgers, 4 potatoes au gratin, 4 caramel apple tartlets, 1 Omaha Steak seasoning packets. plus 4 additional kielbasa sausages for free. So go to omahasteaks.com, enter fantasy in the search bar, get a 75% discount today.
If you could eat, an ad read, I think you would choose that one.
This would be the one.
Put me in, coach.
Week 10 bye weeks, Chiefs, Eagles, Raiders, Ravens. A lot of fantasy-relevant players in that mix. Crabtree, Cooper, Wentz, those wideouts in Philadelphia, all the Chiefs fantasy-relevant players. You notice how I didn't mention any Ravens? Mm-hmm. But they're on bye too.
Yeah, got them.
So we're going to talk about, look, it's week 10. This is make or break time. Let me ask you a philosophical question, gentlemen. How do you approach these specific weeks with regards to how much of your fab budget you hang on to for the playoffs and for the upcoming weeks? I mean, let's say you're a team that is in the playoffs, but you're not locked in. Do you take the approach of, look, I'm getting a player, I'm getting a defense, I'm getting a quarterback right now, right here, doesn't matter what it costs, so I make the playoffs? Or do you hedge and you play that whole I'm probably going to make it, so I'm going to save a little money for later?
You got to get in. You have to win. So if you're in that type of a situation, and let's say, we'll talk about it, but Kenyon Drake or Damian Williams, they happen to still be available, and you're hurting at the running back position, you got to go big. If that is the case, the preferable thing is you have a few bucks left because weird things happen all the time in the NFL, and you always want to be able to put a dollar bid to either for offensive or defensive purposes to block your opponent from doing something. But if you are on the edge, then you got to go in and you got to get that player.
Yeah, if you're on the edge, I mean, the goal here at the Fantasy Footballers HQ is that hashtag FootClan title. We don't want you to just, get into the playoffs. We want you to win the title. But obviously you cannot do that if you don't get in the playoffs. So if you're on the cusp, do whatever it takes.
No, the Browns have been trying that for years.
No, do whatever it takes. However, what I generally do, if I'm in the playoffs, maybe it's not a guarantee, but it looks like I'm going to make it. I basically treat my fab as $5 is I'm out of money. I have $5 left, and I don't touch that until the playoff weeks roll around. I now view that I'm out of money, and I act accordingly.
Yeah, and I guess depending on your league, that line you could draw that at $10 or $3 or whatever people spend. All right, wide receiver, waiver pickups. Some probably owned but worth checking guys. Just throwing the names out there just in case, but we like them.
Yeah, because if they're out there,
they should be owned.
Yes.
Juju Smith-Schuster, Robbie Anderson, Sterling Shepard, and Jeremy Maclin. Maclin is on a bye. He could probably be acquired on the cheap because of that.
Robbie Anderson would be my top ad from that list.
I would say
Sterling Shepard.
Yeah, it'd be Shepard for me. You love Robbie Anderson.
The dude's on fire. I mean, he's killing it. 4 for 48 and a touchdown last week. I mean, he has been absolutely sensational now for weeks.
Yeah, and he's got a good matchup coming up this week at Tampa Bay. Yeah. But I will take a Robbie Anderson, Sterling Shepard water bet.
For this particular week?
No. Rest of season?
Sure.
All right.
Water bet.
Have fun when Eli Manning gets benched.
We're paying water bets out today, by the way.
Oh, good thing I wore my black shirt.
Here's a little review. I did too. Here's a little review from last week's water bets, okay? Jason,
yes.
You bet that Jonathan Stewart would be a top 25 running back. Now, you did not mean like top 25 in fumbles, right?
No, but he was though. That is what I meant.
So Jason's getting wet from that bet, wheel of water. Jason and I made a bet. I bet Cooper Kupp and Gerald Everett would outscore Sammy Watkins and Tyler Higbee.
I will be watering you on that one, Andy.
Yes. And then week 9 bet, I bet that Jay Ajayi would outperform C.J. Anderson.
You did.
I bet with Mike.
And
all three of us are getting wet this week.
The funny thing about that bet, I mean, you absolutely crushed me, is I bet if I had came to you on like Saturday and said, hey, do you want to cancel that one out?
Oh, I would have been like...
You would have been like, oh, thank you for letting me off the
hook. No, of course not. Let's talk about some actual waiver. We'll post them on Twitter, by the way. We'll post the waterings. Brooks, hold us accountable. Okay?
Okay, you got it.
All right.
And we also do post the waiver. We post an article covering some of these waiver pickups. So if you don't remember the guy, make sure to go to thefantasyfootballers.com and you can remember that way.
Okay. Who's your favorite waiver wire pickup at the wide receiver position this week? This is the game we play, a reactionary world where what have you done for me lately, but who has sustaining power from some of the guys that put up big weeks? I mean, Beasley scored 2 touchdowns. Robert Woods had a couple of touchdowns.
Yeah, I think you have to decide whether you're a team that is looking for a stash wide receiver, high upside long term, or a play this week. If you're looking for a play and you just need someone to start, I've got a guy that I think has as good a chance at finishing of all the waiver wire options as the number 1 guy, and he's available everywhere. That's Marquise Goodwin. I think Goodwin gets behind everyone. I mean, he is Olympian fast, and C.J. Beathard has actually been able to air the ball out, just fine to get him the ball deep. And the New York Giants,
that's who they play at home this week. And
they have just been awful.
Yeah. I expect San Francisco to win this game at home.
What?
Absolutely.
What?
They play much harder than those Giants play right now. Things are falling apart for Mr. McAdoo.
Megadoo-doo. Am I right?
Yeah,
you got him.
That actually makes sense. But Marquise Goodwin, Trent Taylor, broken rib. Yeah. He's out. Pierre Garçon, out. Kittle, out. It's the Marquise Goodwin show against the Giants. Light him up. He's going to start on my dynasty team, my 9-0 dynasty team.
Congratulations.
Which I just traded for Josh McCown in.
All right,
because I'm going for the perfect season.
Yes, you're going for a phrase that has never been uttered in existence. I just traded for Josh McCown because I'm going for the perfect season.
Oh, I know.
All right. So other starts this week, guys you really like the matchup, you think you can grab off of waivers and get value. Who else sticks out?
Well, if it's between Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp on your waiver wire, I would rather have Cooper Kupp.
Really?
I would, absolutely. And you were about to say Robert Woods.
I was going to say Robert Woods is probably my favorite pickup of that list.
Cooper Kupp and his red zone targets are off the chain. I mean, this is just where he lives and breathes. He gets targeted inside the 20, inside the 10. I'm throwing that out there because I think people would react to Robert Woods' 2 touchdowns. Now, one of Robert Woods' touchdowns was a 3rd and 33.
Sure.
Against the Giants.
Right.
And
that's not what I'm reacting to with Robert Woods. The last 4 weeks for Robert Woods, 5 for 66, 5 for 70, 5 for 59, 4 for 70.
Yeah.
And he had the bonus 2 touchdowns. So, I
think he's leading them in receptions,
in a half-point or full-point PPR league. Robert Woods has been a stud for 4 weeks.
No doubt about it. I mean, you're not the numbers say Woods over Kupp.
I mean, honestly,
right
he's had 2 bad games.
Yeah. Who else stands out? I mean, do you want to pick up Josh Doxson? 3 for 59 on 5 targets last week, more involved?
I would rather have Crowder than Doxson from, a history standpoint and what we saw before he missed the game. But I don't like the matchup this week against the Minnesota Vikings. The guy that would probably be next on my list would actually be Mohamed Sanu.
Yeah, I love it.
Mohamed Sanu, since he's come back from the injury.
Falcons wide receiver. He's been great the last 3 weeks. Now, this past week, it took a touchdown. He was only 3 for 23, but he got the touchdown, just like he had the week before when he also had 6 for 74. Week before that, 6 for 65. And now you come up in a matchup against Dallas that is, the 25th worst against the wide receiver position. I think Sanu is a guy you can rely on for a decent floor and obviously has the touchdown upside.
Now, if you can pick up a guy that you don't necessarily have to play this week, what?
There's a standout for me in that list.
I was going to say a guy I'm very interested in is Marquise Lee, who I don't necessarily love him against the Chargers. He could potentially get shut down, but after that, Cleveland, Arizona, the Colts. That's his next 3 matchups following that. So if you're looking for just a bench stash,
8 for 75 and a touchdown is worth mentioning. That's what he's coming off of.
Jacksonville Jaguars wide receiver Marquise Lee, I think he's got 3 great matchups coming up here. So if you're dealing with those bye weeks, then I think he's very interesting.
If you are looking more into the future, another guy, I mean, he's still available in the majority of leagues, which is, I guess it makes sense, but I would pick him up. That's Corey Davis. Corey Davis,
sure.
He didn't have a big game this last week, only 2 for 28 on 5 targets, but he was on the field over 70% of snaps. He was the second most routes run for the team, and he is great as a wide receiver. He was drafted in the top 10. You saw week 1. He was fantastic. I think Corey Davis is a guy where most of these players on this list we're talking about, you're trying to squeeze some juice out of that.
You all right there, buddy?
Oh, I'm trying to.
It's that long neck.
Yeah, it's the draft neck.
It's the draft neck.
You have no idea how hard it is to talk with a draft neck, Andy. But you're trying to squeeze.
I don't know
Have
that.
you ever tried to clear a draft neck?
Oh, it takes a while.
You need a plunger.
A plunger?
Does the Heimlich work in that situation?
You have to do it at least 20 times.
Yeah, it's like a slow.
Yep.
But most of these players, you're hoping for. This is what you're hoping for out of these guys, right? It's like, I'm going to get 5 for 70, and maybe he'll get a touchdown. You're just wanting to start a guy that will have a little bit of value. Corey Davis is just about the only guy to me that has the chance that is realistic to say, look, over the next 8 games, he could be a top 20 receiver. Him and Sterling Shepard, those type.
We do have streaming quarterbacks on the show today. We'll get into the quarterbacks shortly. The running backs, let's talk about waiver options at the running back position. We talked a lot about Damian Williams and Kenyon Drake yesterday. Obviously, if they're out there, you know the situation if you listen to yesterday's show. Both heavily involved in the passing game, 6 receptions each on the Monday Night Football game.
If you had to, which one do you prefer?
I still prefer Kenyon Drake because I think his big play capability means that the limited split touches, he's got the higher upside to me.
Sure.
I do too, despite the fact that Damian Williams was my rising star. I love Kenyon Drake.
So is Drake your number 1 running back pickup this week?
Not if Matt Forte's out there.
Okay.
If Matt Forte is out there in your league, I loved everything I saw about him. He's my probably going to be my start of the week on Thursday.
That's a 2 days.
I know, 14 for 77 and 2 touchdowns, but he still got it. He still has it, and he looked great. And the way that Josh McCown can now, utilize play action when their running game is having success, it works both directions. Matt Forte would be my number 1 pickup if he's available in your league. Outside of Matt Forte, I would say Rob Kelly's the number 2 guy, and then I'd go into the Miami running backs myself. What do you guys think?
I think I would take the Miami running backs ahead of Rob Kelly at this point. And
Forte?
No, Forte would be my number 1 guy as well. But Kelly, it's touchdown or bust at this point for Rob Kelly. He's been over 30 yards one time this season.
Yeah, and he goes up against Minnesota, one of the best run defenses this week. I would love to have Rob Kelly pick him up and stash him because it's rare to be able to find a starting running back on waivers, and that's what you have in him. It's just a tough week to want to play him. Did either of you guys bring up Orleans Darkwa? I know
we did not.
He is owned in a slight majority of leagues, but look, he has been the clear head running back, and I think he's looked
49ers.
Very good, and he goes up against the 49ers. I would, if I just wanted a 1 week start, which isn't usually how I look at running backs. I'm trying to get as much as I can, but I think Orleans Darkwa will probably be ahead of Matt Forte on my rankings this week.
One of the things that people ask us a lot and I'm going to try to do this more, is when we mention these names and players we like, they kind of don't know who to drop necessarily. So I want to give you 4 names. I want to tell me if you would drop them for Forte, Drake, Williams, Darkwa, Rob Kelly. Jonathan Stewart. Would you drop Jonathan Stewart? Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
Theo Riddick?
It's obviously going to be a little bit scoring dependent. Yeah. If you're in a PPR, Theo Riddick gets more value. But in general, I think I would rather have all of these other players. If I was in a full PPR, then I would take him over Rob Kelly.
Yes, agreed.
Ty Montgomery.
Yeah, I would drop Ty Montgomery for these players.
I would as well.
And Eddie Lacy.
Yes, he's injured right now.
Yeah, it's unfortunate.
So if you got them on your roster, these could be some switch outs you can do this week. Let's go ahead and jump into some tight ends.
Wait, before we jump into tight ends, I just want to throw out Danny Woodhead. He is, they're on bye this week, but coming out of the bye, I fully expect him to be back in the pass-catching role and active in Week 11. So you can wait and try to pick him up next week, but he'll be in more people's radar next week. So Should
you try and trade Buck Allen this week?
Yeah, we said that last week. I I would be trying to trade Buck Allen. You've got too many guys around him that can change his situation. He's no longer the first down back. Terrence West could come back. Danny Woodhead could come back. So if you can get value from Buck Allen, I think you'd be wise.
I think I'm less excited about Danny Woodhead than I am what he does to the I realize the concern
Real
that he
life,
brings.
you mean?
Yeah, no, in fantasy, I just don't know what Danny Woodhead's going to offer a competitive playoff player if it takes him 3 weeks to get integrated to a horrible offense. I mean, it's just – but I realize what he does to Buck Allen and what he does to Alex Collins and what he does to the rest of that offense. So
if it's anything like week 1, then he's going to be perfectly fine because he was the go-to target for that whatever quarter. I mean, incredible. Look, I know, I get it.
Super thin
super small sample
he
size.
was the man for a quarter.
But it's the opening week, and that was the go-to target after all of training camp. And everything.
It's just really hard. It's hard to know whether or not, yes, that was him then, but he's coming off an injury.
I'm excited for him.
And
that's fine.
We're speaking very positive about Daniel Frank Henry Woodhead. I just looked up his real
Daniel
full
Frank Henry?
Daniel Frank Henry Woodhead.
That sounds like someone
DFHW.
From the Civil War.
His picture kind of looks like that too.
Dearest mother.
Yes, exactly.
Hey guys, quick question before we move on to tight ends.
Project, Brooks. Project.
Desperation play for wideouts. If Evans is out, would you consider Adam Humphries?
Yes, I would.
Okay. Humphries, Chris Godwin.
No, thank you.
Yeah, and then of course you have the Dallas wide receivers too. If Dez Bryant misses time, you got to check, of course, on Terrence Williams' status.
I told Brooks to project, and the volume was identical.
Yeah, it was pretty neat.
Have you ever yelled at anyone, Brooks? Do you know what I'm talking about? Like when your voice goes louder and then you get angry?
Maybe once or twice.
Yeah?
No, you've never yelled.
I'm guessing because you yell so little that you probably remember the last time that you yelled. Do you remember one of these times that you went?
Of course he doesn't remember the last time he's yelled.
Crazy?
He's never done it.
Actually, I don't know if you guys
lying.
have looked into this, but before we hired Brooks, I did a full background check on him growing up. When he was a teenager, he was the front man for a Screamo band.
Was he?
Yeah.
So I've lost it.
That's how you lost your voice.
He burnt it out.
Yeah.
He's got those
every day we strive for
vocal cords are destroyed.
We strive to get better on this show. I mean, we've been doing this for a while, and Mike's an audio engineer, and every day we listen, we make sure that the sound quality is great for all of you, and every day I tell Mike to turn Brooks's volume up. But it doesn't matter. It's like Brooks can compensate for whatever we do in the software. It's really special.
I got nothing for you.
All right,
Project.
Yeah. Look at you. He just tried to move the mic closer to his mouth because he knows that the volume's not going up.
That's a good method.
Tight ends. Let's talk about the explosion from Jared Cook. 8 for 126 on 9 targets. Now, he had value this year when he got into the end zone. All of a sudden, he was a target monster. That first drive, it was all Jared Cook, and you were just like...
Clearly a game plan.
Yeah, absolutely. Kind of similar to what we saw about that Amari Cooper game when all of a sudden that's all he looked at. Does make you wonder a little bit about the progression we've seen from Derek Carr, lack thereof, this year, in the sense that, second, third reads, his ability to move the offense outside of these kind of scripted offense plays. I've been so back and forth on Carr this year. At times I've expected more from him. At times I've thought the offensive line wasn't what he had last year. But, it's not easy in the NFL. Right. Jared Cook, Greg Olsen, Charles Clay, Ben Watson, those are some waiver wire options. Who's your favorite?
If you are making that playoff push right now, and we talked about stash players, you have to pick up Greg Olsen. I think that this is an absolute mandatory move. It's still a few weeks away. They play Miami, then they're on the bye week. Is it he's eligible to return after the bye week? Jay, am I remembering that correctly?
To be honest, I don't remember off the top of my head which week he can come back, but I know it is very soon. He should be practicing.
He's eligible after the bye week.
Okay, yeah, so he comes back. Jets, Saints, Minnesota. So, an okay schedule, but he's Greg Olsen. Kelvin Benjamin is out of town. I believe once Olsen's back, he's immediately the number one target.
Yeah, he'll be a top 5 tight end when he's back, so long as when he gets back, he doesn't re-aggravate that foot injury, which, is a concern, but anyone can get injured. While he's out there, he'll be great.
The matchup this week is great for tight ends for Carolina, but Ed Dixon had 0 receptions last week after Benjamin left, so it's kind of interesting. So Olsen's a stash. Charles Clay's not practicing. I don't think he's going to play this week. Is he a stash?
Yeah, he could be a stash. You know, in the meantime, you could still get some use out of Nick O'Leary while Charles Clay is out. But Charles Clay was good enough to where if you're having serious tight end struggles and Greg Olsen's already rostered, maybe you do stash Charles Clay. The guy I would pick up this week would be Tyler Kroft. He plays Tennessee.
You got some tombs that you need raiding?
Yeah, go raid those tombs with Kroft. It's the best I got.
Way to jump in on the
go raid those tombs. Kia.
I mean, Ben Watson looked great, so you could be like, oh, I'm going to pick him up, but he's on bye. Exactly. I mean, you go, oh, who's playing New York Giants? That's always just listen, Footclit. One of the ways to stream a tight end this year is just look who's playing the New York Giants and then grab their tight end. And right now it's it's George Kittle. Oh wait, now Kittle's injured.
The same for the Browns though. So I mean, Darren Fells he does nothing, but he catches touchdowns on occasion. Are you interested in?
No.
Okay.
No,
now let me throw out a.
And by the way, Garrett Selleck is the starter now in San Francisco in that New York game.
Yeah.
So
would you be willing to pick him up?
No.
Now let me throw this out because I know it's a name that I'm going to do it.
Yes.
But listen, Eric Ebron is available.
No.
You know, he had 58 yards, 3 for 35 this last week. Plays Cleveland.
Maybe. I don't know. I'm kind of with Jason.
No.
It's a hard week for tight ends.
What about Jermaine Gresham? He seemed to have a rapport with Drew Stanton.
Yeah.
If the second end zone target he had was on his inside shoulder, he'd have 2 touchdowns last week. You know what Richard Sherman in the secondary will probably be able to do with the Arizona Cardinals wide receivers. I feel like Gresham is a sneaky play on Thursday.
Yeah, I like that.
In a limited
Big Gresh.
Limited situation. All right, quarterbacks in just a minute. Defenses we like this week. Who would you stream at defense? I love Chicago.
Yeah, you got Chicago against Brett Hundley. Whew, he's bad.
Yeah, basically look for – and you know what's ironic is I also think you could Green Bay against Mitch Trubisky. I think that's going to be a low-scoring game with some turnovers and not a – you're not going to put up a bunch of negative points when you start either of those defenses.
And possibly available, the Patriots are coming off the bye week. They get to take on Brock Osweiler.
Love it.
That's delightful. The Lions, maybe they're available. They get to take on the Browns. And Carolina will be taking on the Dolphins. So there's some pretty interesting streaming options this week.
The Los Angeles Rams, they're playing against the Houston Texans, which means
they're pretty heavily owned, though.
They are pretty heavily owned, but that's just such a nice matchup because they're going to put up points. That's what they've been doing this year. And then that means Tom Savage is going to have to throw the ball.
Oh, goodness. Nightmares. Just nightmares. That's all I have when I think of Tom Savage.
So Tom Savage, he goes to sleep, wakes up in a cold sweat. I had to throw.
Yeah.
It was a negative game.
Oh, that's his nightmare too?
Yeah, as a quarterback.
Pass? All right. Let's move on and talk quarterbacks.
Full stream ahead.
All right, last week, man, home run. Tyrod Taylor, Jared Goff, and Drew Stanton last week. All viable streaming options. If you're curious what a streaming quarterback is, maybe you're newer, and what we pick out here is we try to find somebody that's not majority owned at the quarterback position with a nice matchup. So if you're streaming a quarterback from week to week, these are guys that you can go with. Now, I'm going with King Goffrey, Jared Goff against Houston after the big week. Now, depending on your league, he may be owned. He may not be owned. I think he's an absolute must-start quarterback this week, so if he's available, you can pick him up. I'll put it in the back of your mind that I think Fitzpatrick's going to have some success against the New York Jets because I think the Jets are going to have some success against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I think that game has the potential to be the McCown-Fitzpatrick fantasy points show. So I'll throw Fitzpatrick out there for those of you where Goffrey's already picked up.
It's also revenge.
Oh, gosh. Ryan Fitzpatrick, every game's a revenge game.
Yeah,
for him and Josh McCown.
This time it's personal for both of them.
All right, Mike, your streaming quarterback?
I recommended Goff last week. If you got him, you hold on to him. I will say I like Jason's streamer better, but if you follow the show, you know that first person into the dock, you get to pick your players. So the streamer I wanted was already gone. But this week, Eli Manning, he's still starting as far as we know for the New York Giants. So pay attention to this week, just in case they decide to get willy-nilly and shake some things up. Who knows? But if everything goes according to plan, Eli Manning will be playing the San Francisco 49ers, and Eli still put up 2 touchdowns this past week. The 49ers are not very good. We just saw Drew Stanton, everybody, put up a good fantasy game against the 49ers. So I think Eli, it's a little bit gross, but it's still worth it.
Totally viable.
Yeah, my quarterback stream of the week is Josh McCown. You brought it up, Andy. That game with Tampa Bay is just going to be great for streaming options. You're talking about a team in Tampa Bay who has just been horrific against the pass this year. And Josh McCown, in the last 6 games, has only he's thrown 2 or more touchdowns all games except for this last week. But this last week he also rushed a touchdown. In fact, Josh McCown has 3 rushing touchdowns this year. That is more than a lot of fantasy running backs that were supposed to be great. Lamar Miller. And so Josh McCown getting it done with his legs, getting it done through the air, great plus matchup. The last several weeks, I mean, from week 5 on, you have been fine with Josh McCown every single week. Great matchup, stream him.
And he looks like Ivan Drago.
He sure
does.
does.
He does. Yeah. He's got that chin, man. That chin.
Yeah.
If he dies, he dies.
That's his motto, actually, for life.
For life.
It was funny. I looked up. I remembered this play where Josh McCown, when he was an Arizona Cardinals quarterback.
I was there.
And it was the last play of the game, and he threw a 28-yard touchdown to knock the Vikings out of the playoffs. And the Cardinals were 3-12 at the time and would have had the number 1 pick in the draft had they not done that. And it was really hilarious. I tweeted it, so if you want to go to my Twitter at Andy Holloway, you'll want to watch it. Not just because of the play.
Oh, the commentary.
Because the commentary from the Vikings commentators, they're literally screaming,
"Caught!
No!
Touchdown! No!"
It was unbelievable.
There are Vikings weeping on the field.
Yeah, there are Vikings weeping on, and that was back when the 1 foot in push out rule was in effect. And my goodness, now the Cardinals that year, they would have been able to draft Eli Manning or Phillip Rivers.
I believe we still got Fitz.
They still got Larry Fitzgerald.
Yeah,
so
it worked out.
It worked out not for the Vikings. It didn't.
That's how long Josh McCown has been playing.
I know, it's just amazing.
And he was a 10-year vet at that point.
That's right. Developing the iron chin. So that was those were our streaming options. Jared Goff, Eli Manning, Josh McCown this week. Let's go ahead and get into the mailbag.
Ooh.
Mailbag.
Mailbag. All right. That you held that note as long as McCown's career.
That was.
You need me to go longer?
We're gonna, if you want to match his career.
I don't think Foot Clan wants this to happen.
All right. If you have a question for us, it may or may not get answered. We may sing over it, but you can submit it on the website, thefantasyfootballers.com. You been there, Jason?
I've been there every day of my life.
302-464-TFFB is the voicemail hotline. That's 302-464-TFFB if you want to call in a question. If you do call in a question, make sure you mess up the first couple times. It's very entertaining for us.
Yeah, delightful.
All right. This question comes in from Jack in St. Louis. Would you pursue Mike Evans as a buy low candidate right now? He's had an awful week 9, faces the 1-game suspension, and Jameis is on the shelf. What's the value of Evans rest of the season? Do you buy him low?
Yeah,
I don't mind this at all, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. I saw someone that was making a trade that was essentially T.Y. Hilton for Mike Evans. There were other pieces there, but I mean, because T.Y. had the great game and Mike Evans is suspended, if I could grab something like that, goodness gracious, yes. I buy into buying Mike Evans low.
All right. Let's talk about another wide receiver. We mentioned him yesterday. Brian in Sacramento says he's 7-2. He has Hopkins. He's looking to trade him and Doug Martin for Alshon Jeffrey and Funchess.
Give that to me again.
He's looking to trade.
No. Hopkins and Doug Martin for Alshon and Funchess.
You can get more. I mean, Hopkins, his name and this week carries way more value than Jeffrey and Funchess. Doug Martin, what you're doing is you're adding him in as the ultimate throwaway buy low. Doug Martin is not a trade. Right now he's a keep because you're going to be trading him for nothing, like seen in this trade. Nobody's paying for Doug Martin right now. So you can do better than this.
The worry here is as 7-2, he's looking ahead to Jacksonville, Pittsburgh, and that is the championship weeks.
Oh, I would love – you got to trade Hopkins.
For sure.
But you can do better than this.
Yeah, and there is a line, I think, that there's a line where you say, hey, I'm going to just put the best wide receiver in fantasy out there no matter the matchup. If you can't get value for him, he brought you this far. Last week we expected a disaster. 16 targets, still gave you a great week.
Colts.
Great week.
Colts.
I know it was the Colts, but you also had a Colts team that was playing triple coverage on him all the time. It just takes one play on 16 targets is all I'm saying. And we've overreacted to championship weeks before. So I'm saying draw a line. Let me put it this way. Would you rather go into your championship week with Devin Funchess over DeAndre Hopkins? Can you swallow that?
No.
Yeah,
That's what it comes down to.
But this next question
all right,
from Muhammad in Dallas.
Go for it.
Question.
Said someone requested a trade of Doug Baldwin.
Do it.
For DeAndre Hopkins.
Do it.
He has Doug.
Oh, no.
Don't do it.
Like, so we're saying you would trade Hopkins for Doug Baldwin.
In a heartbeat.
Yeah, I would.
Give
Jason brought up the other day when we looked at Russell Wilson after his monster week against Deshaun Watson. The passing attempts number is so astronomical for Russell Wilson this year. It's just going to be a career high. Well, you know what that comes along with? It's Doug Baldwin's on pace for the highest target count of his career.
Yeah.
And he's had, I think, 3 straight games with 10 or more targets. So Doug Baldwin he's an automatic.
Yeah.
Now this week, he may be slowed down by Patrick Peterson a little bit.
Maybe. But, I mean, Doug Baldwin.
He moves around, but so does Peterson.
Peterson generally doesn't follow guys into the slot, though.
We'll see what happens.
So.
We'll see what happens. Look, if I were Arizona, that's who I'd try to stop.
Okay, we cannot close the show out
I
without
know.
reading this. This next question is crucial. The people need to hear this.
From John in Australia?
Yeah, but
The title of the question he submitted is Mike is the best.
Okay.
That's Mike Evans.
I like
He's talking about Mike Evans.
Right.
I like where this is
sure.
going.
Hey, guys, not a question. Just wanted to thank Mike for giving up 30
Mike
minutes
Evans.
of his time every Sunday to give advice on Periscope. 3 weeks in a row, his advice has helped my team dominate. And his advice this week to play Walker over Ed Dixon saved his week.
Yeah, bonjour, John.
You know what? Congratulations to you and to Mike.
Yeah.
Hey, he's on Periscope every week.
We
Yes.
do accept payment in solo. The
That
delicious.
is hey
from
hey,
Australia.
John in Australia. I need my solo fix.
We're all out of solo right now, and it's a travesty. You
It'll
can't
only
get it in the
cost you
States.
$800 to $900 to ship it here, freight it from Australia,
But
but it's worth it because it's delicious.
yeah, but I mean, come on, Walker over at Dixon. I gave you the play. You give me the solo. I need the solo.
Are we going to start like on the UDK next year? We're going to have like 3 payment options. There's going to be like
Well,
PayPal,
we're adding-
credit card, and then like just
We're adding Bitcoin
and solo.
and solo.
Yeah.
There you go. So many ways to pay.
All right. Hey, by the way, draft.com/ballers, our studio sponsor, the best place to play DFS every single week, right on your phone. And they've got the World Series of Fantasy
get
right now.
in the World Series tournament so that you can come and see Andy and I in New York City.
That's right. I got an email this morning. One of our listeners just made it through to the second round.
Ooh.
So continued success to all of you who entered. Take care.
Goodbye.
Thank you for listening to another episode of the Fantasy Footballers Podcast. Join our fantasy football community on jointhefoot.com and follow us on Twitter @TheFFBallers.